Well, hello there guys and girls, my name's Mikey and welcome back to my room for another drawing tutorial. Today we're going to be covering how to draw black girls, darker skinned, maybe African descent, manga and anime characters. And again, this is one of those things where just grab yourself simple sheets of paper if you can at home, follow along, get yourself a rubber if you're going to be making some mistakes like an idiot, and a super cheap mechanical pencil will always do the trick. Now, one of the things that I've been sort of harping on about in this particular run of videos, ever since we've done Latin, Hispanic, Indian, Middle Eastern, Pakistani and so on, is just getting a bit more cultural diversity when it comes to the design and your drawing of your own anime characters for what you guys have got going on at home. Because it's not awful, there are still plenty of other cultures sort of shown in good anime and manga these days, but it's not amazing either. And you can't really blame anyone, I guess. In Japanese culture, you're going to draw and write about what you know, which will probably be something a bit more culturally Japanese. But it's good to get the mix in and have an awareness. Now, much like I've kind of done in the other two videos, it's worth just disclaiming that black and dark and brown and all this sort of stuff, all these terms, they cover such a wide range of people from such a massively wide range of countries and communities and so on. So this is a very rough, a very broad strokes tutorial. The aim of this isn't to be really particular and specific and overly culturally aware of any one particular group, but really just to kind of give an idea, an overall theme. I want to kind of give you guys the tropes and ideas you might need to create characters that have like a suggested background, suggested ideal and community. So there'll be a few things where we might sort of take black African tropes, but maybe we're stealing from kind of Jamaican black or Mauritian black. It's kind of a widespread, so do bear with. Now what I'm just doing is grabbing myself some character drawings. I'm just going to create a framework for a character. We've done other tutorials about designing your character frameworks before, so we're not going to worry too much about them in this example. If you ever want to just learn how to draw any anime character from basic shapes, we've got tutorials about those, so get in the description or follow along with the channel, and do give us an old click subscribe if you haven't already. Come stick around for what we've got going on. It's a pleasure to have you. Lost what I was saying there. So what I'm just really trying to quickly get out of the way is just some body shape. I'm going to make this thicker, curvier, fleshier in this example. The bits that really do need to be discussed though are going to come up when it comes to actually getting a few of the features in the face. What kind of differences do we do compared to standard sort of anime characters with their simplified pointy noses? Are we going to do things a bit different to show a black character's face? Is there a slightly different facial structure we want to express a bit more to help suggest that this character is a bit different, it's from somewhere else? So we'll have a little play with all of that, and let's dive in. Firstly, let's just make sure this rough framework I've built up is showing on the camera phone. Going to get that into focus. Lovely. And what I like to do is obviously the standard fare. Get your eyes and face and map everything out. With this character, probably just going to bring just below our centerline an eye in here. And what you'll notice already is I'm making this character way, way thicker. I'm not saying all dark people are big or anything like that, obviously. But I'm going to give these characters some curves and flair and hip and stuff just because I can. Now, with this eye, fairly standard setup. You can draw your various manga tropes. You can have your tsundere eyes and your yanderes and all that sort of thing. I'm going to just make this, again, an eye with a good thick bit of lash area. And for this character, we'll make him a sort of a darker black. We'll really get in there with the skin shading, which we're going to cover in a bit. But what I like to do for a lot of contrast is give some of these darker characters lighter haircuts. So we might give this character like a proper sheer white hair dyed situation. So let's get a bit in there. Now when it comes to, in fact I'm probably going to cover up maybe the far part of the face, and we'll have that whole like cool Rihanna singer style look going on. Now when it comes to these characters, I'm not going to go over pointy on the nose. I'm going to indicate the underside of the nose, sure, and I'm going to keep it again that sort of halfway between eyeline and chin line situation. But I'm going to just give that a good bit of bump and curve before I bring it back. So it's not a point. This is definitely a curve back and in situation. And I'm actually going to just show a bit of nostril as well on the other side, a wider flare for this character. Now, what that just kind of basically means is we're not super pointy with the nose. There might be something ever so slightly flatter, and wider about it, like you might get from a load of people from black cultures and sort of darker heritage, I should say. And also what we're going to do is we're going to take it as an opportunity to exemplify the smile and really show off that there's thicker, luscious lips going on here. Now you have to be very careful here with lips as well. If you're just going to draw a massive outline, it can actually look a bit racist and just like have really weird overtones. And it's just a weird cultural thing about what we associate with imagery based on, you know, a whole history that we've got going on here. So don't be scared at all to express black people in your drawings, but just be aware of like what might or might not look appropriate. Although I've never really known what's appropriate to draw. I get fed back all the time. So I'm just going to create some real thick, full lips here, which we're not going to hide from in this drawing. And now that I've got an idea roughly of where I've got the features in place, I'm just going to ever so slightly change our jawline, change where the chin drops down to on this character. Bring that up as such. Excellent. Get an ear around about here. I saw the eye checking on this side as well. So really not too much that I've worried about when it comes to the basic framework. I've still got the standard anime tropes and face and situation, but I'm going a bit thicker with the lips. I'm not having a standard pointy anime nose in this particular example, but I'm keeping everything else fairly much the same. If I like how a lot of other styles have gone on, then we're going to do the same here. Maybe a white eyebrow in this instance, along with white hair. So, for this particular character, before we worry about clothes and things, I'm going to give a haircut that's really going to help the dark skin stand out in this example. So I'm just going to have one of these flowing, covering half the face type. So there's going to be a load of black straight onto white. And we'll just get some curls and sheaves of hair coming in down here. Again, as ever, I'm trying to keep these tutorials as quick as possible whilst struggling to keep the actual drawing still to some kind of standard. So every time we do a tutorial, some of the characters I draw come off okay, some of them really don't come off very well at all, but none of them are really meant to be a finished product. It's all about getting a particular idea. And in this example, bearing in mind that on screen now we've got links to the Hispanic ones and the Indian sort of Middle Eastern ones as well. We've covered a lot of the ideas about these basic tropes. I'm not being country specific, but I just want you guys to be aware of lots of indicators that tell you how to kind of express that your character's actually, maybe culturally completely different from just being a Japanese schoolgirl. Maybe this one's from an African, Central African country or sort of a black heritage island. It's always hard to kind of pinpoint unless you've got a lot of cultural awareness and experience yourself. So a lot of Japanese mangakars who haven't maybe had an opportunity to travel to lots of different countries might not kind of do that. And neither have I. But if you can, get yourself traveling. At the very least, look up loads of different cultures on Google image search just to really expand the range of characters you can draw, because it's going to make your work way more interesting if you do. Okay, so we've got a good haircut kind of coming out on this character, and then just some other basic body bits we're going to get in. Line up the collarbones. I think maybe like real wide disc gearing, real power play here and here, something like that. And then when it comes to the design of clothes, not really too important. We're not going super traditional black African, but maybe we'll have like a choker or just a neck collar piece that does kind of ever so slightly tie back to maybe traditional tribe. So this is just going to be like a series of arcs. This could be gold or beaded in different colors. Again, it's not really something in particular, but it's hinting at kind of different heritage. It could be like a neck choker on there as well, something like that, but kind of gives off that idea. But I won't quite go that full whack. And then in terms of clothing, let's just give this character like, I have no idea, what are these kind of single dresses that's like it's an all-in-one, something like that. Just a nice midi dress top, out and around, and then probably just comes out and down here. Probably gone absurd with the hips and bum in this. I've just seen my ratio and perspectives well off. So we'll just bring that curve line in by about a foot, and then boom, something like that. Really simple, just to get the idea across. So I hope that kind of, just as a starting point, and again, let's just check that focus. Excellent. Let's just zoom in really quickly on this example, and then we'll zoom back out. What I'm getting at here is on this character, standard anime fare, but the nose is ever so slightly indicated as wider. We've got more of a curve, some thicker lips, and we're just going to think about like these slightly more forward cheeks and stuff when it comes to getting in the design. Okay, let's zoom that back out, and let's get another example in. So what I'm trying to do on one sheet is a character that, let's just, oh god, zooming with this camera phone. I'm not even going to edit that out. Better. So what I was getting at just there, whilst I was trying to rezoom the camera phone, is that there can be sort of cultural cues and hints, but don't rely overly heavily on them. You can have a character that's black and has nothing to do with actual black culture. They might have been brought up in a very white or Eastern philosophized society. Take like Afro Samurai. That guy is more samurai, I'd say, than he is sort of traditional Harlem black. However, there's going to be other tropes that you can get in and loads of other designs. So let's get another character over here. Completely different stance and setup. And another thing that's really good to focus on is when you're not going to have really light hair maybe on a really dark character, is then what else is really good about black hair, and that is that it can really afro out and get loads of pump and height. That's always very exciting. So let's get another character that's just kind of a bit more standing off, let's say. So let's get some shoulders about here and some hips. Again, just building up the basics of this character firstly by a series of very basic shapes, or at least lines that indicate very basic shapes in this example. Probably going to get a bit bum curve in there and there. And we'll just get legs coming off around about here. And around about here. Okay, great. And then I'm trying to do a kind of just turning back, some kind of really sassy stance that's like full of character. So maybe hand on hip down here. Don't want to make it too rough. Don't want to take too long. Ah, the battle always continues. So something like so. Elbow joint about there. That hand will be on the hip, just beyond. This obviously line of the back is right down here, so we've got another shoulder circle right up here. And then, yeah, something down again. So just up here. This arm's still coming back, and this is coming in. And again, do remember, if I'm being really quick about the character design, although I really hope you're having a go at home and trying to keep up, do remember, this is just really quick character shaping based on the fact that we've already got tutorials that teaches you all about getting that sort of stuff out of the way. So let's go just around about here for a bit of boob. Chest up and out. Okay, nailed it. So with this particular character design, if we go off the side of the face, then I'm going to have maybe just a casual, just closed, well, you know, slitted eye look, just looking back, aware of us as a viewer, not sort of wide-eyed or anything like that. And then a very cynical eyebrow line as well. Something like that. And then, again, when we come into the profile of this face, with sort of more African kind of descented characters, we're going to have a good curve to the forehead. And then the nose isn't going to come in as a point. It comes in a lot flatter. It can do. Almost like it's a level sort of arc. It's going to bounce back. And then we're going to get, again, a wide nostril flare opportunity. Now, that's going to be a starting point. We might erase back from it. And then when it comes back in as well, again, just going to signify some really full lips. Let's come back up here. And then back down off that side as well. Before we actually then curve out into the chin. And come back. Something like so. With this character. Staring back at us like that. And of course, we'll have to get all sorts of other work in with the final lines. We'll get all sorts of makeup and lash going on in this character. Now, so what I'm talking about here with the hair is that, well, actually, firstly, let's bring this nose in a little bit further as a side-on look. Still the same idea. I'm just going to bring that nostril flare a bit further up in there. And then let's get a kind of scarf look over the top of the head, maybe something like this. And then we'll have an afro coming off of the back of it. And we'll talk really quickly about how it's quite good to get these drawn in. So just going to knot something in there. And there's probably going to be a fair bit of hairline that's all the way down here. Like so. And now when it comes to the sort of afro, what you want to do, start off by a nice big guiding line. I like to kind of draw a big circle or a big shape that's going to show me roughly where this hair is all going to be sticking out from. This is going to be a massive afro, if anything. Very confident. And I'm not going to follow this around by drawing points and spikes. It doesn't work like that. A good afro hair is curly. It's built up of lots of curls and sort of ringlets. So I'm actually going to work around this line by constantly moving my hand, by not really thinking about how I'm moving my hand, just this kind of jaggedy up and down shape. And this is going to be the sort of silhouette you get for all that hair. It might be sort of a few points when it actually kind of does bust out in areas, but really just going with this shape is going to give you a much better interpretation to it. Lovely. Put a scarf up there. And then maybe on this character as well, we're going to have some really big hoop earrings around about here as well. Really gives that idea across. Lovely. So there already you've got another character that clearly isn't Japanese, clearly isn't standard Asian. Let's make sure she's also in focus. Again, kind of signifying a bit of heritage to things. Now, I'm just going to stick some random clothes on this one as well. But the dress isn't too important. We're going for maybe like a retro 70s funk with this particular girl anyway. But I'm going to stick some clothes in, finalise the line art, and then the other really important thing that we need to get covered in this particular topic is how to actually get some really good dark black appearing skin with your shading, and the different way we actually do the highlights this time in shadow, as you might do to a character that's white instead. I'll see you in just a sec. Okay, great. So welcome back. So obviously what I was just getting out of the way really quickly of the line art is everything except for the skin on these characters. A bit of shading on a really simple dress, a really simple bit of neck jewelry, and some kind of funky discotheque outfit, and some nice dark hair. And you'll notice what I did is I just created an area of highlight that's as rough and randomly textured as the silhouette of the afro itself. It's got to follow and maintain that kind of curve, instead of it being one of those bars of light that you tend to see striped across a lot of anime characters' haircuts. So let's dive in and actually talk about what we're going to keep in mind when we actually texture up black skin instead, nice dark skin. Now usually when you have lighter skinned characters, you're starting on a white page, so you start to add in your darker areas and build up from there and just leave the highlights as they are as the page itself. When we're working with darker skinned characters, you need to start to think in a slightly different direction. I'm actually going to start off with marking out, using a very sharp edge of a pencil, areas of white highlight. So that might be over the ridge of a boob here, maybe just there. It might be for just over the nose here. Just going to create a zone on there, and also just over the cheeks as well. I'm going to create another zone around about here. And then a similar thing is going to happen on the lips. They're going to be fairly plump and glossy and have a large area of light that they'll reflect back. So that when I start to pop the shading in, I'm going to be bearing all of this in mind. But also, I'm going to start to think about other light sources as well. Just on the edge of this shoulder, I'm actually going to leave off an area around here of reflected light white off the back. Secondary white light sources might come off there. And I'm actually going to bring this all the way down the edge of the arm as well as to a degree, the edge of the boob here, just about there as well, and then a little bit off of this far shoulder. What I'm doing is I'm just going to make sure that I keep those particular zones, why not down the side here as well, untouched by the darker tones. And then a little bit, in a very similar manner, I'm going to pop in just there, along the neckline before the areas of shadow. So that just means I've got a no-go zone for when I'm actually putting on a base tone. Now, I've talked about these as well in the other tutorials, but it's all about a very light stroke happening a lot of the time. So I'm going to firstly get a nice flat edge off the side of this pencil. I've got a very smooth edge coming off of there. I've got my hand fairly far back up the pencil, and I'm just going to work the area maybe up on the inside edge of this arm, just so I'm in a not overly important zone so I can find that right texture. Great. And I'm just going to take my time to fill this all in nice and dark. And then similar thing, just going to work on this zone here of the arm. Get that dark, very soft texture in, built up with lots of layers. So what I'm going to do is just go right up to the edges of where we've got these whiter, lighter zones. Continue up. I'm going to miss out the nails on here so they stay nice and white and a very strong contrast to the rest of the skin. I'm going to go up the finger here and var. And then up against that white edge, just going to bring it in as well. Up along here and just continue along, filling in all of the area. Now, when it comes to the face as well, it's nice too, now that I've got that nice soft edge, map in different sections. So we'll go just up here for the eye, just up here for this forehead area. And you'll notice this softness is getting lighter and lighter all the time. It's creating these lighter shades of grey as the flattened area of the pencil becomes wider. The pressure across any part of that area drops. So it allows us to use that really soft edge on the face, knowing that we can come back and put another layer on top and another layer on top to get down to where we want to be. Less is more. Working up from less is always more in these situations. So I'm going to fill this all along. This is probably the least exciting part of the tutorial, but very important to get a feel for. And what I'm going to do, before I continue on with the rest of the body, is just show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go back up here, get that dark zone, change direction of the pencil ever so slightly. The direction in which I'm actually going up and down now is at a crosshatch angle to the other part of the texture. I'm just going back over now, ever so slightly rotating the pencil to get ever so slightly a bit of edge. I'm just putting in another layer of skin tone as I see fit to actually create a very dark skin. Just under there and just around here. Smoothing it out and bringing it up, keeping the lips out, keeping other areas out. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to define really darkly some areas of shadow to help give the skin some strong contrast as well. So let's come down here, right over the boob zone. Again, just filling it in all the way along as such. Just going to use this other sheet of paper to stop my hand from smudging the other half of the page. Excellent. Now finally we've got fairly consistent tones going on with this character. In fact, ideally, get a nice spot of reflection just about there. So I'm going to use my eraser just to bring that in. Well, a nice light spot. Great. And a bit on the arm here. I'll fill in the legs in a minute. It's not too much to worry about here. But let's talk about these areas now of lights and darks and how clear we need to make it. Now, areas of shadow on black skin need to be really, really dark so that you have a contrast. So I'm using a really sharp tipped edge of a pencil now to mark out these areas. Gonna have some shadow around here where the hairline comes up to the head. It's going to be very, very dark so that it properly pops out and has weight. A bit of the neckline along here, and this whole area under the chin is going to be very, very dark as well. A very sharp, dark line of pencil. So I'm using a point of a pencil here to get that good dark edge to show how much that stands out. And then when we've got areas of the lips, for example, they might just be much lighter shade and tone, like so. And then areas around the nose, around the eyelash up here, might be nice and dark. Might have a bit of shadow just under the nose as well, just to give it all of that pop. And the only challenge is that when you come in with darker skin, it can all start to smooth into itself. It can kind of eat up your different zones and areas of your character. And you have to start to create these edges, create these highlight zones with harder edges to help separate what's going on in your character design. Really going hard over again with a pencil, just to separate those features out. Just to help make sure it's all still clear, it's all still defined, and it all still pops. So that's the main challenge you have to face, is those light areas need to be relatively well defined against a very dark skinned character. And then what I do now is I'm just working out from where we've got these spots of light, so I'm making sure that we've got all the other necessary areas of shadow in, and also plenty of texturing and smoothing. So for example, I'm going to make the head overall darker at the top where the hairline is by putting in another very light smooth layer. I'm just going to let that drop down over here and create that contrast as it comes down. Everything's a bit more in shadow on the right hand side under the hair. So I'm just going to set that back a bit as well, and it helps me get a bit of a guiding line for where the chin comes in, where the other features are on the face. As well as we've got the back of the neck area in here, it's going to be further in shadow than the other more forward areas. And as well as on the boobs as well, we've got that nice rounded surface. It lets us apply all sorts of bits of shading to various degrees just to give that shape. So again, it's light, it's a flat edge of a pencil, and it's taking lots of passes over the layer to build up where it's darker. And by taking the time to do so, and by adding on these extra bits of contrast, it goes from that very flat, dark look that we had a minute ago, and it's starting to, again, still have form and take on shape, just by understanding that we are going to have to go in a fair bit harder, build up these areas of light and dark. The darker something is, when you place another shadow next to it, your eye perceives it as less of a difference. Whereas if you're working on a very light surface, and you place a shadow next to it, you're going to actually see that that's quite a strong contrast. It's all about how you understand the relationship of things. So brilliant, we've got that bit in. Maybe over this edge of the shoulder, it's going to come up from a much darker zone here as the arm comes back and in. Going to help pop this hand forward, which again is going to be highly contrasted. This entire part of the arm under here is in shadow anyway. Get that out of the way. It's all a play of lights and darks, really. And then I'm just going to take that opportunity just to give that hand some pop, just so that it comes out a nice bit of definition all around the edge, because we get to take graphic shortcuts like that, as well as maybe just showing this whole area here is still in shadow from the hair. Again, going in quite dark, where in another situation we might have gone in fairly light just to get that idea across. But with this, these shadowed zones are all part of what we've got to express. Okay, great. So basically, we're just going in a lot and with a lot of layers over the pencil. Let's make sure That's still in focus. Good it is with the camera phone. I'm going to continue on this exact game plan. I'm going to just fill in some other bits around here. And I'm going to do the same with this character. But I'm going to give her a lighter skin tone, where I'm not going to need to start with these overt highlights. I'm just going to do a more traditional layering in. So as this time-lapse kicks through, just see how we more gently put the layers on that lighter kind of brown you get with some black people as well. Alright, I'll see you right at the end. And welcome back. So yeah, I hope this helps to give you a bit of an idea. Now when we're going for a really dark black skin, I'm not actually going all out black with the pencil itself. I'm still holding back to create a very, very dark skin tone, which allows us to still show areas of shadow, still show areas of highlight and get texture in on the skin. When you do go quite dark, you do have to give it several passes with the pencil in order to try to create a dark yet smooth texture. You want to avoid it from becoming too blotchy, and it helps bear in mind that then you're going to need to increase your contrast a little bit. Your darker areas need to be really dark to help keep everything still popping out, or you need to include lots of highlights of clear, light areas to help still define the edges of shapes, edges of different parts of a body as they sit next to other parts of the body. It's going to be either very dark black lines or very light reflecting areas that are going to help you to make these distinctions of area on your really dark skinned black characters. Then, by similar tropes, you can actually just use a lot of indicators of ethnicity. Get a big afro in, lots of curvy hair, like a funky 70s look. It sort of denotes culturally a very similar thing. And so I can keep this character's skin in a lighter tone of black, but it would still visually what you'd call a black character, even though I've got a much lighter shade in with a pencil. So there's lots to bear in mind. I do recommend as ever that you take on board, but there's no particular one kind of black country I'm placing any of these characters from. It's all vague and general ideas you need to start bringing in and research yourself and get some ideas on. Well, I hope you found this to be useful. Get yourselves some more colourful girls in your own anime and manga designs. I strongly recommend it. We need to see more cultures in anime and manga as a general rule of thumb. And if you guys like what's going on with any of these tutorials, don't forget you can always come and pledge support on Patreon, a little as $1 a month. There's loads of rewards and giveaways on there, and it really helps me to continue to make this sort of stuff. Links below and in the exit screen. But otherwise, come click subscribe, guys, and have yourselves a lovely week. Take care.